Today, I want to tell you the story of a man whose life was marked by a deep spiritual devotion and a search for meaning and enlightenment. This man is known as Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, or simply Rumi, and his poetry and teachings offer incredible insight into the human experience of seeking spiritual growth and understanding. Rumi's journey is an inspiring one that can teach us all about the importance of seeking truth and meaning in our own lives. Through his poetry, Rumi invites us to explore our deepest selves, to examine our beliefs and values, and to search for a deeper understanding of the world around us. His message of love, compassion, and acceptance is one that is particularly relevant in today's world, where we are often faced with division, conflict, and strife. Rumi's teachings offer us a way to bridge divides, to connect with one another, and to find common ground. So, I urge you to listen to Rumi's story with open hearts and minds. Let his poetry and teachings inspire you to seek your own path of spiritual growth and to embrace the beauty and complexity of the human experience. And remember, no matter what challenges you may face in life, Rumi's life serves as a powerful reminder that with dedication, perseverance, and faith, we can overcome anything and leave a lasting legacy that touches the hearts of people around the world. Today's story is Jesus and the skeleton. Listen carefully. Jesus and the skeleton. Jesus often traveled from place to place, and various people tended to accompany him for parts of his journey. On one occasion, as he was leaving a small village, a young man began to follow him. Not long after they had set out, the young man spotted the bones of some anonymous creature in a ditch. His curiosity was raised, and, believing that he had discovered an abandoned human skeleton, he started to poke the bones with his stick. "Are you not the greatest prophet on the face of the earth?" he asked. "Jesus. Then you must know the secret of bringing back the dead." Jesus ignored his comment, but the man persisted. "Please, great prophet, teach me how to give life to these useless bones, so that I too can say that I've accomplished a worthy deed." Jesus was annoyed and continued to ignore the young imbecile, but the man wouldn't relent and repeated his request again and again. Jesus was beginning to lose patience, and, sure enough, he eventually snapped, "Be quiet, this is no task for a fool. This work requires a soul purer than rainwater, a self more sentient than angels. You must live many holy lives before you can even be considered a candidate for such a job. Let's just imagine for argument's sake that you found a suitable staff, but where now is Moses to achieve the miracle?" Jesus tried his best to make the simpleton grasp the importance of the issue. "All right, since you think that I'm not good enough to know the secret prayer, then you do it. You give these bones life," he repeated unrelentingly. Utterly puzzled, Jesus wondered why this apparently ego-ridden man was so bent on bringing these dead, forsaken bones back to life. He turned to God, imploring him to divulge the reason for this challenge, and soon he heard a voice in his head. "The piteous always drive themselves into a rueful state. They plant seeds, but sow thorns. And those who sow thorns have no place in the divine garden. In their hands, every rose will become a thorn. If they fall in love, their 30 beloved will turn into a venomous snake, for their spirit is dark and nasty. Their talent is in creating poison, unlike the true alchemist, who turns everything into precious gold." Quite curious by now, Jesus decided to fulfill the young man's demand, hoping to discover the purpose of this predicament that he found himself in, as well as ridding himself of the fellow's exasperating company. Thus, he uttered the prayer to raise the dead and blew it onto the shattered bones. Unbeknown to Jesus and the young half-wit, the bones were not those of a man but of a fierce black lion. In no time, the lion, raised from the dead, snapped the young man's head off, broke his arms and legs, and shredded his body. Standing a few paces away, Jesus witnessed the attack in awe. Cautiously, he approached the lion. "Why did you tear this poor man apart?" "He just made me give you back your life. I decimated his body because he had made you angry, O great prophet," said the lion obediently. "Then why don't you eat his flesh?" inquired Jesus. "It's not my fate today to be nourished by his body," replied the grateful lion, who then turned around and walked toward the distance. The story of Jesus and the skeleton teaches us an important lesson about the consequences of our actions and the nature of our desires. The young man in the story was driven by his curiosity and ego to the point where he was willing to risk his life for a futile and dangerous endeavor. His desire to bring back the dead, without considering the consequences, led to his demise. Jesus, on the other hand, shows us the importance of patience, wisdom, and discernment in dealing with the challenges that life presents. He tried to explain to the young man that the task of bringing back the dead required a pure heart and great soul, but the young man's stubbornness and ego blinded him from understanding the truth. The lion, who was brought back to life by Jesus, serves as a metaphor for the power of nature and the consequences of our actions. Like the lion, nature can be fierce and unpredictable, and if we are not careful, we may face its wrath. The lion also represents the idea that we cannot control everything, and sometimes, we must accept the outcomes of our actions, even if they are not what we expected. The story also teaches us about the importance of humility and recognizing our limitations. We must learn to accept our weaknesses and limitations and work towards improving ourselves instead of indulging in our desires and ego-driven pursuits. We must also be mindful of the consequences of our actions and consider the impact they may have on others and the world around us. In conclusion, the story of Jesus and the skeleton reminds us that life is full of challenges and that we must approach them with wisdom, patience, and humility. We must learn to accept the limitations of our knowledge and abilities and work towards becoming better individuals. We must also be mindful of the consequences of our actions and consider the impact they may have on others and the world around us. Thanks for listening.